Manhattan State Senator Brad Hoylman-Sigal is chair of the Judiciary Committee and a very powerful voice in Albany. I want to start by just asking you a quick question about the decision by the president-elect to name a new person to head the Southern District in New York, which has the investigations of the mayor and members of his administration. Do you think that given the sympathy that the president-elect has expressed for the mayor, do you think that there's going to be any change in terms of the indictment, the investigation, not only of Mayor Adams, but of members of his administration?
Well, I think that has been signaled with the choices that the president-elect has made already. The biggest concern I have, though, is the assumed appointment of Matt Gaetz as U.S. Attorney General, somebody who is the subject himself of an investigation by the Department of Justice, will now be leading that agency.
Do you think he's going to get confirmed?
I sure hope not. I mean, I hope the Senate has the backbone and independence and shows their constitutional responsibility to reject appointments that, frankly, don't pass the laugh test in the case of Matt Gaetz.
So let's talk about congestion pricing. The governor has decided to revive congestion pricing, and it's supposed to start in early January. Do you think that there's a chance that the president-elect of the United States will try to kill it?
I think there is that chance, no doubt. I mean, nobody knows, nobody can predict what the incoming president will do. He's expressed his disdain for the program, although I would argue that his most recent comments, were slightly more supportive, if you might read it that way, in the sense that he didn't say he was going to kill it on day one. That said, he would do irreparable harm to New Yorkers. He'd do harm to people in the entire region. Look, we spend 100 hours a year in congestion if you're driving in the city of New York, and it costs our economy $20 billion a year on top of that. I'm hopeful that those are arguments that might persuade the incoming president to stand by and let New York do what it needs to do to both clean our air, improve our economy, and support our mass transit system.
So, but do you think that he's going to be pressured by some of the Republican congressmen from our area who have expressed absolute opposition, from Nicole Maliotakis to Mike Lawler and the congressman from Long Island? I mean, they really have expressed opposition, and some Democrats, in fact, have joined in that, including Pat Ryan of upstate. So the question is he going to feel pressure from those people to do something for the people who are supporting him? And that, is it a loyalty thing, like, I'll do one thing for you if you do something for me?
That may be likely, but if they're going to try to kill congestion pricing, they better come up with the $15 billion that we need to fill the hole that was created by the program and by the fact that our mass transit system is deteriorating so rapidly. We need a modernized signal system. We need dozens more accessible stations. We need to extend the 2nd Avenue subway. That takes money, Marcia, and unless Mike Lawler and company are going to come up with those funds, you're going to see mass transit continue to falter and congestion continue to increase. We are the top congested city in the entire world. We used to be 4, and this year we have now taken the crown as #1 congested city.
Do you think it's because congestion pricing has taken so long to take effect, or is it just that there seems to be more vehicles on the street because of Uber and Lyft and all the other for-hire vehicles that seem to be clogging our streets?
Well, I would agree that the for-hire vehicles are part of the problem, but also part of the problem is when you don't have a reliable transit system, people opt to take their vehicles into the central business district. We have to change that paradigm, as it was changed in cities like London and Singapore and Stockholm, where congestion pricing, once enacted, became very popular among their citizenry. So I would urge the Republicans and fellow Democrats who oppose it, give us a chance to see if it works. Let's fix our mass transit system. Let's reap the benefits of cleaner air and safer streets. You know, there have been 15 children killed already this year in car crashes. That's the second most since we started counting the numbers when Vision Zero began.
So you say give us a chance to see if it works. What if it doesn't work? What happens then?
Well, the great thing about congestion pricing is you can change it. It's not written in stone. You can raise the fee, you can lower it, and you know what? You could provide more exemptions. You can change the hours. So it is, in effect, a dynamic pricing system, and that's what's happened in cities like London, and that's why I think it's been so popular. It increases efficiency of deliveries that will happen at night, not during the daytime, to further clog our streets and create gridlock.
So I think we have to talk about the fact that the subway system is 120 years old. And one of the things that people may not pay attention to is the fact that our subway stations are limited to the number of cars they can have because they were built 120 years ago. So some stations can have 10 cars, some can have 8 cars. But if you want to have more service, you have to have the trains run closer together. And to do that, you need new
cars
and new signaling
and new signals, both of which are antiquated. You know, we have orders for new cars that we can't fulfill because we were depending on congestion pricing. I voted for that bill in 2019. I'm glad the governor has finally given the green light 5 years later, but we also have electric buses on order. Right now, I've been told that the bus orders are actually being put behind other municipalities, other cities and states that have ordered electric buses. There's only one electric bus producer in the entire nation.
Wow.
So we have to get online and get in line so we can order those electric buses. Bus service will improve under congestion pricing as well. That's a very important feature that I think some New Yorkers don't know.
So the other thing, though, when you talk about buses, it brings to mind the fact that there's fare evasion, not only on the buses, but fare evasion on the subways, and it amounts to $700 million a year. So a lot of people who are angry about congestion pricing say, why do we try to raise money from congestion pricing when there's $700 million in uncollected fares? And drivers say, why should we pay when people aren't paying to take the subway? So don't you think something should be done about that?
I certainly agree. I mean, I'm outraged. I saw a woman the other day jumping over the turnstile carrying a Gucci purse. And you know, I wanted to make a citizen's arrest on the spot, but she jumped into the subway car. It is unacceptable. And I'm glad that the MTA is going to be placing new saloon-style doors at subway stations. We need to crack down also on subway fare evasion, not just on the subways, but also on our buses, too. I mean, the buses are not free, but unfortunately, a large segment of our population seem not to care. Talk about free riders. Those are the ultimate free riders, and the rest of us have to pay. So it isn't fair. But back to the drivers themselves, you know, that's 10% of people who come into the central business take cars. The 90% of us, mostly working class New Yorkers, take the subway. We deserve to have an efficient subway system that is reliable.
And we're going to have to leave it right there for now, but we'll be right back. We're back with New York State Senator Brad Hoylman-Sigal. Before I talk to you about the next capital plan, I'd like to ask you this. Do you think that Governor Hochul is going to pay a political price for the fact that she's now revived congestion pricing? Because there are still people who, in New York, there's 2/3 of New Yorkers say they don't support congestion pricing. And of course, in the Hudson Valley and in Long Island, people are perturbed about it because they depend on their cars. Is there going to be a political price when she runs for re-election in 2 years?
Well, I hope we see the benefits of congestion pricing quickly. And as it has been in other cities, London, Stockholm, Milan, where congestion pricing initially began as an unpopular program, it became very popular. So she should, I hope, reap the benefits of being courageous, but putting our law into effect. We passed it in 2019. She's only doing what the law says she should do.
Well, let me ask you this. So the congestion pricing is the previous capital plan. We now have a new capital plan, and the MTA has asked for $68 billion from 2025 to 2030, and they want the state to come up with, I guess, a big part of that. How do you do that?
Well, congestion pricing is part of that, no question. So we will have a massive hole if we don't turn the cameras on. Don't forget, we have a $600 million investment in the infrastructure alone, not to mention hundreds of millions of dollars of hearings and review and studies to get congestion pricing where it is today. So we don't want to lose that investment by not turning the cameras on. And I hope that's a powerful argument to the Republicans and others who might oppose congestion pricing. But clearly, we have to invest in mass transit. It is so important. It is the circulatory system for our city, the lifeblood of our economy. And again, $20 billion lost due to traffic congestion a year. We will make that up with a more efficient traffic system and a better, more reliable subway system.
But as you're looking for more money for the
Yeah.
MTA, is there going to be pressure on the legislature to come up with new revenue streams?
Well, again, back to the
Not
Republican.
congestion pricing.
Correct. But of course, there will be pressure. And we need to always look at making sure the people who make the most money in the city and state of New York pay their fair share. They currently don't. And that's something that my colleagues and I will be reviewing. Taxes have to be fair. They have to be progressive. And that's, I think, our charge, is to make sure that the most important component of our economy, what makes New York City's economy so special, is our mass transit system. It should be our #1 priority.
But the thing is, in the past, the legislature has looked at payroll mobility taxes and things like that, which basically put the burden on businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're saying that the wealthiest taxpayers would have to pay more to go to the MTA.
Well, it has to be fair, no matter how. I mean, small businesses shouldn't bear the brunt of the massive expense of the MTA. Corporations should do so out of good citizenship, but also because they are reaping the benefits of a mass transit system that, frankly, attracts a lot of their employees to the city and the region. So there are a lot of reasons why the corporate franchise tax and other taxes should be reviewed when we look at longer-term MTA capital plans. And
Yeah.
let's also talk about the health and safety of New Yorkers. You know, I released a report recently with Gridlock Sam Schwartz on the fact that EMS, FDNY, and NYPD times for response have slowed from 23 to 70% over the last decade. So it is truly a matter of life or death for some New Yorkers, because they need to get an ambulance in time. They need to have firefighters be at their beck and call. But if you're stuck in traffic, you're not going to have those response times where they should be.
I guess I would have to ask you, though, what role, I agree with you that response times have risen dramatically, but what role has the fact that we have more bike lanes, that we have more bike racks that have taken up street space, what role does that play in slowing down response times? Because there are fewer lanes of traffic. So when there used to be 5 lanes of traffic and now there's 2 lanes of traffic, obviously it's going to take a longer time to get through. And so what role has that played in the increased response times as well?
Well, I mean, it goes back to Robert Moses. When you create more lanes of traffic, you'll just get more traffic. And so I don't think bike lanes have contributed appreciably to traffic congestion. I mean, there are other reasons why we should be concerned about e-bikes and mopeds and the chaos that we see on some of our streets as a result of so many deliveries. And we're working on that in Albany. We finally have required mopeds to be registered with the State Department of Transportation at the point of sale. So you can't buy a moped and then take it onto the street without having a license plate on the back of it. Now, we should look at the same for commercial e-bikes as well, and that's legislation that I'm carrying.
What about license plates for bicycles? You know, one of the things that I've noticed, because I use the streets a lot, is that there are no rules that are enforced when it comes to all of those things. Bicycles, mopeds, motorcycles, they go at red lights, they go up one-way streets the wrong way, they go on sidewalks. Shouldn't we enforce those laws so that there's, like, if there's a one-way street, it should be a one-way street. If there's a red light, you shouldn't go through it. You shouldn't ride on the sidewalk.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, look, I don't think it's everyday cyclists who are causing the problem. It's a lot of our delivery people who, frankly, are under unreasonable time restraints to get your noodles to your apartment, you know, while they're still warm. We should look at those algorithms that are being imposed upon those delivery riders, but also look at the fact that, you know, if they did have a license, if they're a commercial delivery driver, there might be a way for camera enforcement to do a more efficient job to make sure that they don't ride down the street on the wrong way.
So my last question is this. There are a lot of delivery companies, Amazon being only one of them, that bring trucks into a neighborhood. They park wherever they want. They have other delivery people that offload and make deliveries around the neighborhood, and they're parked in taking up a lane of traffic for an entire day sometimes. And that's a traffic lane, it's not a parking lane. And I don't understand why we don't have rules that they can't do that.
Well, they shouldn't do it. And if they do it, we should charge them for it. They're making millions of dollars off of our public spaces, and that's simply not acceptable. And, you know, back to the delivery app companies, you know, most of delivery app companies don't have insurance for their delivery riders. So God forbid you're hit by a delivery driver on a bicycle, you're out of luck if you need your hospital expenses covered.
Is there any way to convince them to do the deliveries at night where they're not going to be so much of a distraction to the regular traffic?
Well, that's one of the benefits, I hope, from congestion pricing. By lowering the toll, as the governor announced yesterday, she'll encourage deliveries in the evening hours, hopefully while we're all asleep.
Gov Hoylman-Sigal, thank you so much for joining me, and thank you at home for joining us as well.